Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. It is so great to have you all here. It's great to see such a great turnout for today's important discussion. I'm joined here by Alex Borngesser, who does grant work with the city, as well as Abdul Siddiqui, who's the city engineer. And we're here because, thanks to the hard work of Alex, we have received $90,000 in grant funding for improvements to both the Bowen Center and the Ruth Peterson Center. And it's not an enormous amount of money. As you know, we have huge needs at both of the centers, but $90,000, which comes out to about $45,000 at each of the two centers, is enough to make some meaningful and significant improvements, even if it's not enough to do everything we might hope and dream for. So it's a significant amount of money. As all of you know, we have a lot of needs here, and we need to prioritize which of those needs is the most important and the most pressing. So that's why we wanted to hold this town hall. We're very eager to hear from all of you about what your priorities are, and we're really excited to have that conversation. Abdul is here as the city engineer because he can help speak to some of the technical or engineering feasibility questions that might come up. But our seniors are so important. And we have, as all of you know, underinvested in our senior centers for many, many years now. And we want to change that dynamic, and so we want to talk certainly about this $45,000 for each of the two senior centers, but we also welcome any comments, questions, input about longer-term plans in terms of how to more comprehensively really develop our senior centers into the best that they can be. So thank you again so much for coming out. We had a meeting like this Friday at the Ruth Peterson Center. Feel free, I know most of you probably are regulars here at the Bowen Center, but we welcome comments just as we did Friday about either of the two centers. So if you have thoughts, not just about the Bowen Center, but about the Ruth Peterson Center, feel free to share those thoughts here today as well. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Alex, who will begin a formal presentation about the possibilities, and then we're really looking forward to hearing from each and every one of you about your suggestions and what are the highest priorities for you. Thanks again.
Thank you so much for coming. So our meeting format today is pretty simple. Abdul and I will outline some of the funding sources. We'll go through a quick presentation of proposed improvements, ideas that we had from communication with residents and folks who attend the centers. And then we'll go through and have a very inclusive and robust question and answer session where we'll just have a direct conversation with everyone in attendance here. It's our objective to gather feedback and ideas and creative thinking from our residents so that we can build out not only proposals and plans for this funding opportunity, but for potential future funding opportunities. Like we said on Friday at the Ruth Peterson Center, this is one of many funding opportunities and funding plans for us going forward. And so it's important for us to think big and to think long term. So we can focus on this particular piece of funding, but also look to the future. Following the Q&A, we'll go ahead and we can break out and have our individual conversations. I have a survey that's at the sign-in table. If you have not signed in, I would ask that you please do so. That'll help me contact you in the future for events such as this. And there is a paper survey if you're not comfortable speaking in front of large groups, which, believe it or not, sometimes I'm not. So that's for you, and you can write your comments on that card. I also have some little paper boards up on the wall over here if you want to get creative and draw out some of your ideas or perhaps put them up for others to see and to build off of. So that's our format for today. And if at any time you have a question, feel free to stop one of us and go ahead and ask your question. And I'm so sorry, this is supposed to be up here, but I believe it has timed out. The funding sources come from a few different places for the senior center improvements that we're doing on this round. So we did receive $90,000 from an organization called the Next 50 Initiative. They are a nonprofit, actually based in Colorado, and they focus on the aging community. Oops, I need that. Sorry.
I was going to try to get it back up.
That's okay. I'll click through at the very end. So the next portion of our funding comes from the CDBG, which is Community Development Block Grant. This is from program year 2020, and this is $110,000 that was programmed for the centers. Additionally, we have CDBG, again, Community Development Block Grant, in the amount of $175,000. So this totals $375,000 for the renovations taking place at both the Ruth Peterson Center and the Robert Bowen Center. This is, again, as the mayor outlined, a small amount of money in comparison to the need here, but this is not the last opportunity for projects like this to come across our plate. With that, I'll hand it over to Abdul, who is the city engineer, who can outline some of the proposed upgrades and renovations that came from feedback from one-on-one conversations with residents.
If you keep on getting that up there,
Yes.
so many people need to visualize.
Can you do it? Thank you.
All right, so I guess we'll get back to it if it comes up. But in the meantime, I'll continue here. So talking with the senior center management, Deborah, and we've identified a few areas of improvement, including the exterior doors. So really all four doors. So the door here, the door to the parking lot there, the door at Bagley, and then the door on the south side as well. So replacing all those doors, putting in some buzzers, handicap button openers, and also some ADA improvements at some of those as well. The next item that was raised as a priority is to reimagine some of the spaces. So reimagine some of the spaces. So we're looking at creating a new computer room, creating a new fitness room, and then converting the existing ceramic room to a meeting room. And then this is a high priority, is to upgrade the bathrooms, including touchless fixtures and then ADA upgrades, so for accessibility as well. And then finally, there were some miscellaneous items, including enhanced TV use to sync the TVs for simultaneous broadcasting, and then improvements to the gaming tables for dominoes and bingo. I think a lot of that was possibly COVID related, so it might or might not still be a priority at this point. So that's all, and I'll hand it back over to Alex, but we're open to further suggestions.
This slide, it outlines all of the various buckets of funding currently. This is the exterior doors, as Abdul said, the main entrance door on the west side at the parking lot, the front door on the east side facing Bagley, the secondary door at the north side, and the one at the south side. Reimagined spaces, a new computer room, a new fitness room, and to convert the current ceramic room into a meeting space. And then the bathroom, so touchless fixtures, and what is a very high on the priority list is making sure that the bathrooms are ADA compliant, ADA accessible. And again, as Abdul just outlined, enhanced TV use for simultaneous broadcasting and gaming table improvements. So these are some of the things that we put into what we're calling a wish list, and we're open to feedback. So what I'd like to do now is to just hear questions or comments from the folks who are in attendance about what you might like to see at the centers. And again, while this applies to the wish list for this particular funding opportunity, we can also think big and creatively. This will help drive strategic planning when we're looking to future funding opportunities. Yes.
I'd like to see that our outdoor deck out there, that deck that overlooks the last vision of the river, gets improved, and it needs it right now. And I don't know how far that money will go toward any of this, but that's one thing. And the other thing is, I'd like to see that little garden area that we put out there, and those of you who worked on that got my praise. I'd like to see that move to a much more sunny location. I am a gardener, and that location right there gets a lot of shade, and a lot of things get stalky when there's too much shade. So maybe we've got a lot of land over there that's open over there by those former horseshoe pits. So yeah, those are my suggestions.
Great, thank you for that feedback.
And you said you're not sure how far the money will go, but again, we're collecting a wish list here, and then we'll prioritize and get spend the money as best as we could. But then we have a wish list for future funding, right? So we know where to target future funding at that point. So
on that garden, last year, well, we started a couple of years ago, and we worked with Oakland University and Oakland County. So that was our tester to see how to do a community garden. We do have plans for moving it because we did realize, although it did get sun, but we got better spots for it.
Sure.
So we're working with Healthy Pontiac and the Garden Club. So we're going to work on moving them because we're going to add some additional gardens. And we've been talking about the improvements to the deck with another group. So we're working on that already.
So are you saying that these funds, the university and the county will take care of the cost of that?
Yes.
Okay.
We partner with garden groups for the garden.
Sure.
In the back?
With regard to the bathrooms, does that mean a complete redo of those bathrooms? Especially the women's bathrooms? You said that what are the specific improvements to the bathroom? I'm wondering if that's a complete remake for the bathroom, a complete renovation.
Yeah, the two suggestions that have been made in the past and that were identified on the presentation were touchless faucets and other things so that the water automatically comes on. You don't have to touch a faucet or turn a faucet. And then the other one was making the bathroom ADA compliant so that it's accessible for people who are either disabled or have limited mobility. But we're open to bigger picture thinking. So if you're thinking of and prioritizing a total redo of the bathroom, we're open to that and are eager to hear suggestions.
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
A complete renovation of those bathrooms.
I heard a chorus of approval to that suggestion.
So the ADA improvements to the bathrooms will result in a lot of renovation. I highly doubt that the bathrooms will look the same as they are right now once we're done with them. But we can only go as far as the money allows right now.
Sure.
But they really do at least the ladies' bathroom. I'm not been into the ladies' bathroom need a complete remake.
We all know the men's bathrooms get short shrift compared to
and just one more point is, so we're currently in the design process. This is part of the design process. We're looking at construction in July, starting in July on this work.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I just have a question. I want you to go back over. You was talking about the funding. I heard you say $90,000, and you said something about $175,000.
Yes, so we have funding coming from a lot of different places for this specific project. We have $90,000 from the Next 50 initiative. They are a 501c3 nonprofit in Colorado that focuses on healthy aging and aging gracefully. And they have awarded us $90,000 to split between the two centers. We have community development block grant funding, which is a kind of a type of HUD funding and a public grant in the form of, or totaling $110,000, and that's from program year 2020. Now we have that same grant, a different iteration, from program year 2021, totaling $175,000. And so we're taking all of these separate parts and using them together and collaboratively to pay for the renovations in the two centers.
Well, that's a good point, Alex. And so I referenced the $90,000 between the two centers, but really, what's the total pot that we have? And is the thought that should be, or is likely to be, split equally between the two centers? So what's the total amount of money we're talking
The
about?
total is $375,000, and I say that for now. There are lots of other opportunities as we learn what's really needed in our centers, where we can begin to create and submit further grant applications.
And so that comes out to more like $190,000 for each of the two centers.
That's
Right.
correct.
But the project for
Now
this year,
we're talking about some meaningful numbers. Okay.
Right. The project for this year is $375,000. There will be funding in the future as well, but those will be other projects.
Okay.
That's better.
Dr. Waterman.
Hi, good to see you, Alexandria, and I'm here to introduce my friends, my Link sisters, because they're a little shy. They want to speak. But in addition, you're not shy, okay. They're both teachers who taught at Pontiac. But they want to tell you about a project they had introduced too. That's part of the 40th anniversary celebration of the Links. The Links were the group that brought the children's reading room at the library, also the village library, and also did projects at Harrington School. But they have proposed to do, as part of the 40th anniversary celebration, the committee to redecorate the Bowen Center lobby. And they had drawn up a model. I think they met with the senior advisor group here and talked about flat screen TV and new tables and a fireplace, a red fireplace. So I know they're meeting with you, Mayor, next Wednesday, but they just want to tell you that's also another thought image of one of the things you can do with the $375,000 plus what the Links will bring in. They do a lot of nice things for the centers. So this is Janice Green, who is the chairman of the committee, and this is Leanne Rekindle. I want to speak as well.
Thank you very much for that. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
You know, the Bowen Center and it's always been very dear to us, all of the senior citizens in our places here. We've had so many activities and opportunities to interact and get involved in activities that are here. And with the pandemic and everything going on, we felt this was our home, and we wanted to do something as part of our 40th anniversary. The Links has been in existence for over 40, we're just going to our 41st year. And we provide service and community service and outreach to so many different groups. But what we wanted to do in Pontiac, particularly the Bowen Center, is to really dress up the living room. We recognized that the bathrooms, and we knew that there were some funding opportunities that were going to come through as it relates to some of the other rooms. We knew that our money is not as large as your money, so we wanted to focus in terms of what we were going to do. And so we've had several meetings with our Link sisters, in addition to seniors here, okay? And Deborah's been involved in it. And we talked about some of the things that we could possibly do. And that is the TV, we said. You know, this is the home of so many folks. You know, this is home away from home. So we wanted to do the walls, a mural, you know, color, brighten it up. We talked about the ceiling, doing some things, the floor, furniture, and things of that nature. Now we know that we don't have nearly what you have, but we do want to come to the table and offer what we do have. And this is for the Links Incorporation. Most people know Dee Campbell, Deirdre Campbell, and we have several of our committee members who could not be here. We're glad that we're going to have an opportunity to speak directly to the mayor next week, because I know this is probably your first time really hearing a whole lot about it, but we're so committed, and we want to make our home, the Bowen Center, is beautiful. We know you're going to bring it up to 88. I mean, that's by law, we have to. But we just want to add to what we're doing.
Well, Deborah has given me a lot of information about the links and your commitment to the facility here. So Deborah and I have had a couple of conversations just in my short 2 months in office so far. But we are so incredibly grateful for your support, and I am looking forward to our sit-down meeting next week. But let's give the links a round of applause for their generosity.
So anytime that we want to do something, or we have something with Pontiac, she's pushing. Hey, we got to do it.
Yeah.
So she really has been behind this project in terms of we need to put our money where our mouth is, and that was easy for us to do because we're also committed to it. So we're looking forward to meeting with you next week.
Me too. Thank you again so much.
I'm excited too because I'm a resident of Pontiac, born and raised. Taught in Pontiac,
That's great. Thank you so much. So this is a wonderful addition to this package and portfolio of improvements. Beautification to our spaces is a wonderful thing. These dollars that you can see outlined on the screen are for infrastructure improvements. So we can't take this Next 50 initiative funding and use them for beautification or those types of projects. So this is really wonderful and really fitting to pair with these types of infrastructure projects. They go hand in hand. So of the things we've outlined and what we have put up on the screen, does anybody have any ideas or requests or needs within the center that might be outside of the box or outside of what we've put up here?
I don't know if this would pertain to the area that you are saying that the money would go for, but perhaps in the future, I would like to see this senior center have a pool, an indoor pool for seniors for aerobic classes, even for those who swim laps and that kind of thing. Most senior centers have an indoor pool with warm water for those of us who
Excellent.
I hope that is a big move, but it can be done.
It can, yes.
It can be
And
done. And Pontiac deserves it.
Yeah.
We are
Exactly
just
right.
as worthy
Yeah.
as Rochester.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And that's, I want to underscore, that's really important and helpful feedback because even though that's obviously beyond the scope of 190,000, that we want to hear your big dreams, your big aspirations, and what we can do longer term to really make this senior center all it can be. So keep those kinds of ideas coming. Don't hesitate to throw out big aspirational ideas.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see a health room put in. A bed when somebody might just be dizzy, doesn't need to call the ambulance, and the things that we need, blood pressure cuffs, and they already have one of the resuscitation machine. But we need to have it in a central place and probably even locked up, but somehow easy to get into.
Right. So sort of a nurse's station, if you will, with maybe that's an old-fashioned term, I don't know, but a place where someone can recuperate as needed.
And when people come in to like give us our injections, they will have a place.
Okay,
And our diet room.
Okay. Do you have podiatrists who come in and
Yes,
treat people
yes.
here? Okay, that's helpful to know. Where do they currently do that? Where does that currently happen?
In the rooms that we have.
Okay, but we don't really have a designated room that's really arranged for that purpose. Okay, got it.
Yes, ma'am.
What I would like to see is maybe in the near future have some sort of feed program for seniors, such as lunch or either dinner where they can come and get a hot meal.
Okay.
Not something like Meals on Wheels. Now there are other senior centers that do feed seniors.
Right.
And the Salvation Army used to feed lunch every day until the pandemic. So I would like to see something like that where they can come, maybe get lunch, dinner, and stay here and hang out, other than Meals on Wheels.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say we do sometimes have meals served out here. I know.
Well, she told me Meals on Wheels. So what I said was a hot meal. So when I hear it in, I asked her, she said they have Meals on Wheels.
Well, I think it's the same. I think Meals on Wheels provides hot meals out of this space sometimes. So it's through Meals on Wheels, but I know Meals on Wheels is mostly about home delivered meals and things like that. But sometimes they do provide hot meals out here. What is the current schedule for that occurs currently? Every Tuesday, okay. So, but currently it's just 1 day a week.
But you can pick up a packet of 5 meals that you can take home on Tuesdays.
Okay.
Before
Okay.
the pandemic. Yeah, but before the pandemic, we did.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm just saying.
Let's respect our speaker.
Before the pandemic, we did have the hot meals Monday through Friday. Or Tuesday,
We had it 3 times a week.
3 times a week. We still have a facility there. It might need to be remodeled or something. We still have a facility. We have the kitchen. But after the pandemic, things changed. We still have that facility.
Okay. So before the pandemic, it was 3 days a week.
Yes.
Okay. Got it. That's helpful background.
No one's expressed the interest in having it, so that's why we're just doing it on Tuesdays and giving out and having no meals.
Okay. Got it. Thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see an exercise equipment, like treadmills.
Yeah. A fitness facility or gym is what Claudia's saying.
That is one of the suggestions already.
Oh, you've already said that? Okay, I'm sorry.
No, that was just on the initial wish list, and so we've kind of carried it over. But a remodeled and a space for fitness equipment or a space for fitness classes, things like that.
Yeah, and even if items are listed, feel free to chime in and say, hey, that's a great idea. I really like the fact that this is listed here. So don't, just because something's here, don't let that stop you from saying, yeah, that's a great idea.
Right.
Can you have a person to go with the exercise, the instructors?
Yeah, somebody who can actually help instruct people on how to use the equipment would be helpful. And again, although that's beyond this money, which is specifically for infrastructure, for physical improvements, we still want to hear those kinds of ideas too. So those kinds of programming ideas or ongoing operating cost ideas, just like having hot meals served more frequently. That's still helpful for us to hear, even though it may be beyond the scope of this money. So thank you for mentioning that. Having somebody here who can help teach folks how to actually use the exercise equipment. Got it. Thanks, Ms. Davis.
Does the upgrade of the computer room, is that part of the infrastructure?
Yeah, that's good.
So I'd like to see a smart board go into that computer room.
Okay.
For those of you who don't know, a smart board is a large, it looks like a dry erase board or a chalkboard, and it can be interactive with like a stylus, like you might use on an iPad or something else that's
Like a
touchscreen.
computer on the wall.
And then, and then it'll
That's
show
well
up on
said.
the computer.
Yeah.
But a lot of K through 12 folks have them. They're sometimes on wheels. You can move them from classroom to classroom, and you can touch them and move things around manually. In the back?
That's what I was wondering.
I can't hear.
They think for new computers.
I'm not sure if computers is a permissible use, but finding funding for computers or kind of refurbished devices is something that I could absolutely add to my funding pursuit plan.
Yeah. Did everyone hear that? Okay.
I think what's included right now in the project is the actual creation of a dedicated computer room. The equipment itself, we'll just have to see how far the money can take us and what's allowed, what's not allowed.
But again, just because the computers may not be a permissible use for this funding, let us know if you'd like more computers here, because we might be able to identify or find some other funds that could fund new computers as well.
That's correct. And a lot of times grant funding is contingent upon having a space to house those devices, right? So if I were to write a grant for refurbished devices or new computers, whatever it might be, but we don't have a designated space or program for it, we're less likely to be awarded those funds. So having a computer room and a space for, or a computer lab or whatever you want to call it, and a space for that type of technology is really important to be able to receive funding for the technology itself.
New computers, smart screen, all sound good, but until you upgrade that server, you can't even get into a computer. It's so slow. So the upgrading of the server is going to be number one.
Okay.
And then we can add new computers, new print, whatever. But nobody uses it that I know of on a regular basis because you can't get into it.
Very slow.
You got to start it and go do something else. Come back.
Yep.
You may be in or you may not be in.
Okay.
Okay, so upgrading that server is going to be number one.
Got it. That's helpful.
Replacing all of the flooring, even when it is occasionally rough and clean, is still looks good.
Yes. Thank you.
Is that in this room or?
All of it.
Is it? I think obviously this room, but I think pretty much all the rooms have tile flooring now. Is the desire for it to remain a hard surface, or is there a desire to have one room carpeted, or pretty much all hard surface?
Hard surface.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
No carpet.
Got it.
Clean, but more than once a year. I think that's what we've been getting.
Okay, so this is a good thing for me to hear too. So currently it's only cleaned or thoroughly cleaned or buffed once a year?
Once a year. Maybe.
Okay. Well, look, we can talk offline about that and whether we can increase that number.
In the back?
Now, sorry, so the flooring, so we don't want to see carpet here. How about at the Ruth Pearson? Anyone want to speak about that? Carpet at the Ruth Peterson?
There is carpet.
There is carpet there.
Yeah.
Should that be replaced with hard flooring or with carpet?
Hard flooring.
And we've got a gentleman in the back here who's been patient.
My name is Deacon James Smith. Also beautification. And we get a sign on the building, this building here outside, stating that golden opportunity through a community center.
Yep. Makes sense. So something like Bowen Center, home of the Golden Opportunity Club, something like that.
I saw another question over here in the red. Yep.
I was just wondering about the CRC. When you move, you can hear. It might be just me, but it's like
nails on a chalkboard.
Yeah.
That they show on television and whatever. You get them to put on noise on the chair. And plus it scratches the floor.
So what's these are things that can go over the bottoms of the chairs, or is it a surface on the floor that prevents that?
Oh yeah, they just fit right over the
Leg of the
It's like
chair.
a small tennis ball.
Okay, got it.
It's the leg for the chairs, and you can get them for less than $1.
Okay.
Or get some,
Well, that's another possibility. But even if we were to get new chairs, we need to know kind of what we're talking about. So, but the point is something that either the legs themselves, if we got new chairs, or something to put over the existing legs that would prevent that irritating noise and that abrasion on the floor. Okay.
Those little rubber tips that you have up there.
You can put wheels on the chair.
Or wheels on the chair.
I'll buy it.
We'll look at the options there.
You get them, I'll buy it.
Yes.
Yes. I think Alex is on top of it.
Yeah. We're also recording, so we can.
Yeah, we
look
also
back.
do have a report. We should have warned everybody. You're being videotaped and/or audio taped, so just FYI.
So we've gone over quite a few of the nuanced details here at the center. Does anybody have any big dreams for the senior center? Any big ideas, perhaps types of programs you'd like to see? Or like we talked about with the pool or other large projects that you might be interested in?
I'd like to see that maybe we have a further collaboration with some of these universities to provide classes here that primarily focus on seniors. And I certainly like intergenerational kinds of things. I'd love to see some younger folk, but they can only have like 25% in the program as opposed to the rest, the seniors, be the main focus of such a collaboration.
So wonderful.
What kinds of classes would be appealing?
Computers. There's a program called Coursera that allows free classes, but you can take classes around the world. But like she said, we got to improve the server. But I'm sure we're only a mile away from City Hall. Don't we have the same server that you have? Well, we should be connected to that server.
Yeah. So actually, this is a good question because the cable and internet infrastructure at City Hall is very outdated as well. But this is an important point. We are moving forward with updating that infrastructure at City Hall. And as part of that conversation, we can talk about what it would take to update the infrastructure, meaning the video and cable and internet infrastructure at Bowen Center or with Peterson Center as well. So that our head cable person, Philip Brown, is really the expert on that stuff, and he's not here. We have his assistant here instead. But I'm going to talk with Philip Brown about what that would take and how it ties in with the improvements happening in City Hall. So yeah. We'll keep you posted on that.
I didn't finish my thought. Coursera is a program that allows you to take courses from around the world.
Yep.
I took a class at Yale last year, and I didn't get credit, but when you want credit, you need to establish a greater collaboration with the universities. Right. And so that's what I would love to have.
I love it.
Idea, yeah.
A we can go places. It's a problem when we want to even take day trips. We're going to a play on the 19th, and we have to rent a school bus from Trinity Transportation in order for us to do that, to have that kind of activity. And we like doing those kinds of activities, but we have a problem trying to get buses and paying for them for our excursion. Yeah. So big dream, bus.
Yes.
That's really helpful to hear. And I hear you loud and clear that you want buses to be available as needed, whenever needed, and that makes sense. As long as that happens, do you care if the bus is actually owned by the city or affiliated with the senior center? Or could they be other buses that are made available that are high quality buses whenever you need it?
Yeah, because we don't have to pay.
Right. Okay. Got it. And I ask because there are some other opportunities to provide transportation for you in the form of buses as needed. So we'll sort out what makes the most sense in terms of that. But I hear you loud and clear that you need better, more reliable transportation whenever you need it and desire it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Thank you.
Okay.
That was also a really commonly brought up topic at the event at Ruth Peterson, and they also requested transportation to and from the center, that they wish that they had a way to get around the city, to have day trips and activities, but also to get to and from the center in a safe way. So definitely heard throughout conversation about our centers from residents.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. You heard something that makes me question something. The Bowling Center and Pearson Center are owned by the city of Pontiac, correct?
They are. That's right.
Why are we paying to rent a school bus from the city of Pontiac?
Well, the school bus in question is owned by Trinity Church, based on the comment.
We don't own our own buses.
The city does not own any buses. Now, the school district, which is a separate governmental entity from the city, maybe owns its own school buses, but they contract for school bus service with a private entity. So I don't know if the school district actually owns those buses and contracts for the drivers, or whether they contract for the buses too. Different school districts do that differently. But in any event, that's not the city, regardless. It's not city government.
Down the road, could we have a marquee? Because the building just sits here and lots of people don't even know what it is.
Yeah, so similar to having a more prominent sign, not only could that sign say home of the Golden Opportunity Club, but could it be more prominently displayed out by the road is, I think, what you're driving at. Okay.
And then, but we have to pay for activities we do here after hours. No.
Is that currently the arrangement right now?
Yeah. We don't do any after-hour activities. And, you know, we haven't started that since COVID.
Okay.
We did rent the center out for events. You did have to pay.
Yeah.
Depending on what the event was.
Okay.
We get charged for that. But as far as all the other activities that we do inside before 9 to 5, most of the stuff that we do here is free. Our movies and all the other than the senior fit, which we have to pay the instructor for that. But that's the only thing right now that we charge for.
Okay. Got it. So how often is it that groups want to utilize the space here at our outlaw?
Since pandemic, we haven't utilized it, but before we were using it regularly.
Okay. So are we talking just ballpark once a week, once a month, several times a month, several times a week? Okay.
I think you're talking about dances. Is that what you're talking about? Like we had various dances and stuff like that.
Okay.
Which were, you know.
Like the Golden Opportunity Club's fall festival or fall harvest.
Rain dance and whatever, cowboy night and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. So maybe once a month, ballpark, ish. Once a quarter. Okay.
When I worshiped in Pontiac, my church used this for banquets and rented it. So other churches and other community organizations, they will rent and use it too. And it was a good price, but we cleaned it up, so we would have to pay.
Got it.
So we love the dirt.
Okay. Yeah, Gloria?
I would like to find out exactly what the center can be used for. Because over the years, these past few years, it hasn't been utilized the way it should be utilized for the community. Okay. What she's saying is true. So we need to find out for the community how and what can visitor centers be used for. Either one of them.
Okay.
That's also for City Hall. We were cut off completely from everything. So now, Mr. Mayor, can you find out for the community what can buildings be used for again? Because this is an integral part of the community years ago, so we need to bring it back so people feel confident and calling City Hall and asking for things.
Okay. Makes sense. So I think big picture, a clear use policy.
Yes.
What can facilities be used for? By what groups? Is there a fee associated with it? You know, I could see a scenario where, you know, if the Golden Opportunity Club wants to do something in anything, maybe there isn't a fee. But if a totally outside group wants to do it, maybe there is some fee to pay for additional janitorial services or whatever it is. So, but big picture, let's have clear guidelines and rules about how facilities can be used. Okay, got it. Makes sense.
Just a comment on, someone asked about the use of the building.
we would have like a Valentine's dance or a fall dance or whatever. So about 4 times a year. And I think we worked it out with your former predecessor, whatever, to get 2 or 3 free nights, so we didn't have to pay that. What was it, $30 an hour or something?
Okay.
So we did get the opportunity to use the building and it wouldn't have as the golden opportunity.
Got it. I was going to ask that. When
And
you
not
say we, we're talking about the Golden Opportunity Club
Right.
specifically.
But
Okay.
we would always offer a love offering to the janitorial service, which came after we left, and then the setup. We had to, give a little gratuity for setup and stuff like that. So there were some costs, but we didn't have to pay per hour. Was it $50? It was ridiculous. But anyway, I think we got to use it 2 to 3 times a year. So that was helpful.
I get it. Makes sense. That's helpful background.
And then the floor guy. Yep, you had a question?
I was going to suggest that when we're talking about appearance, we need to get the guy that did the thrifty florist painting outside to come and do this building outside.
Oh, yeah.
Say that again?
Yeah.
Very nice mural.
So I don't know if everybody's familiar with the florist. This is on Telegraph, and there's a young artist named Zach who did that. He also did some outdoor murals in the West Alley downtown, and there are some other artists. I actually met with Zach and with some other artists yesterday, and there are some other artists who I think would be eager to have an opportunity, some space to do some murals. And perhaps they'd be interested in talking with all of you about what sort of murals you might be interested in seeing here. And some of them I think, are just looking for the opportunity to do some public art. So they might not be willing to do it totally for free, but they'd probably be willing to do it for a relatively inexpensive amount of money. And that's an opportunity, I think, both for the center here as well as for local artists to contribute. So that's a great suggestion.
Does the Bowen Center have a budget in the city's budget? Is there a budget specifically for the Bowen?
There is. There's a senior programming budget in general. Now, it's a little unclear to me as I sit here whether that's divided specifically between the Bowen Center and the Ruth Peterson Center, or whether it's kind of one overall general budget. So I'm not sure of the answer to that. But yes, there is a operating budget for the 2 senior centers.
Is it basically for staff, or is it a line item budget that takes care of specific?
Yeah, it includes staff, of course, like Deborah who's here, but it also includes other programming items for activities and that sort of thing at the senior center. And how specific that is in terms of line items has depending on how the city council has wanted to allocate that money. So some years it's been broken down much more detailed by line item. Other years it's been more of a general lump sum for the senior centers without it being broken down specifically within the budget. I generally would like to see it broken down in some detail. I don't know that you need it to be broken down in excruciating detail, but some detail, I think, in terms of how City Council wants to spend that money, I think is helpful.
It might be helpful to have some idea of the line items, and that way the seniors can have some input and know what line item they can access.
That makes sense. And as the way the budget works every year is the mayor's office puts together a budget proposal to council, and then council approves that or modifies it and then approves it. And so I'll talk with Deborah and, for that matter, with Mrs. Price about how to structure this. But it would be helpful, I think, for us to do some sort of focus group or have some way by which to solicit feedback from folks here about how they want that operating budget to look like. And we'll figure out the proper mechanism to do that. You know, we want to hear those ideas today, so keep them coming. But of course, the primary focus today is on the infrastructure dollars for building improvements. But don't hesitate to keep these suggestions coming when it comes to programming ideas too. But we'll seek to set up a separate meeting to talk about some of those ongoing operating programming expenditures and budgets.
So we have time for about 2 more questions, and then we can look to fill out the surveys that were handed out or put our ideas up on the board or talk to each other in small groups. Does anybody have any final questions or ideas?
I came to the meeting, but I wasn't expecting this. I'm a widower and I need somebody to do my grass in snow. That's what I came looking for.
I've actually gotten quite a few calls about that. I spoke to a resident last week during the storm, and we joked kids when we were in high school used to go around with shovels, and you don't see that anymore. So we have talked about building out some sort of co-op or volunteer program for leaves and grass cutting and snow removal. A lot of students need volunteer hours for National Honor Society and the other clubs and groups and sports teams that they're a part of. So that's a great idea, and I get calls about it pretty frequently.
Okay, I'll give you my number.
Yes.
That would be great. And, you know, there are a couple of needs that seniors have in the community. One is when it comes to their homes. I mean, one is actual home improvements, you know, a new roof, things like that. And that obviously takes actual dollars. And we're seeking to try to bring back in-house the Community Development Block Grant Dollar Program, the CDBG funding program. The emergency manager outsourced that to the county over 10 years ago. We're trying to bring that back in-house. And that would give us a little more flexibility about trying to utilize some of those dollars for home improvements, for seniors, for other low-income or moderate-income folks in the community. But then there's another layer to needs that homeowners have, and that's snow removal or mowing the grass or raking the leaves. And as Alex says, we might be able to organize some volunteers to do some of that work. So both of those are very much on our radar screen.
And one more point, as the mayor outlined, bringing back community development block grant funding, I'm going to get serious for a second, would be a tremendous asset to the city. Currently, we receive community development block grant, or CDBG, as it's administered by the county, which was done, as he mentioned, through emergency management. However, this puts a cap on the amount of money that we're eligible to apply for, one, and B, what's called programming, or how we allocate it or appropriate it. This could be transformational for the city of Pontiac if we took that function and the administration that comes with it and brought it back inside of the walls of City Hall. It would allow us to program in a multitude of ways and to get a lot more creative with how we spend and use those resources. Right now, we're only eligible to apply for 4 program areas, and we have to select those. We pay a 20% administrative fee to the county for good and honest work that they do on our behalf, but we can do it smarter, better, faster here in Pontiac ourselves, and we can use that money in a much more informed way because we do this all week, right? There is an opportunity if we brought CDBG back to inside the City Hall walls to have a senior services program that provides, grocery shopping and lawn cutting and snow removal and just a myriad of services. There are opportunities for home improvement plans and programs, and the list goes on and on. I'm really excited about it, and I think it's on the I know it's on the horizon for Pontiac, so stay tuned and keep your ears peeled for further discussions about CDBG.
Yeah, and we've already had a meeting with the county executive about that. We've already had a meeting with the Federal Housing and Urban Development Department about that. So we're working with all the other players that we need to work with to make that a reality.
And our guest from the Oakland Press, yes.
Yes, hi. Yes, I'm from the Oakland Press. So just so you know, how much money is this CDBG? What's the total that you would be bringing back into the city, and what's the mechanism by which the responsibility would be transferred back to the city? That's not a tomorrow event, right?
Certainly
so
not.
2 questions: total monies that you would anticipate for CDBG, and what's the mechanism?
So I don't want to put a finite dollar amount. Quite a bit more.
But in a ballpark, is it $100,000? Is it $500,000?
I would say the latter. We're paying a 20% fee on our allocation now, and we've had preliminary conversations with the county and with HUD. So I don't want to put a dollar amount because I don't want to make false promises, but significantly more than what we're receiving now.
We can certainly let you know the existing dollar amount that is being administered by the county, and that's in the order of $1 million+ dollars. In terms of how much more we might be able to get if we brought it back in-house, that's what Alex is, I think, hesitant to commit to.
Correct.
As we sit here.
Correct.
And then the mechanism is we need to get the Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development to agree to allow us to bring it back in-house. And their concern, going back 10 plus years ago, was that there were some problems with the city's administration of the dollars, just in terms of procedural problems, missing deadlines, not filling out the appropriate forms, things like that. And so it's really important to the Department of Housing and Urban Development that we have appropriate, competent staff who's able to administer the dollars. And so that's what we've begun these conversations with the federal government about, is making sure that we build out the human infrastructure needed to appropriately manage the dollars. Now, the good news is that these dollars come with a 20% administrative allotment to provide for that administration. So there's no reason why we can't hire the staff, good staff that we need to make sure that this is being properly administered.
How do you define the process of managing these tax dollars, basically, which are coming back to Pontiac?
Yep.
Are you currently defining the process for stewardship of those tax dollars and accountability?
Yep.
Or is that still, conversational? Sometime in the future, you have to figure that out.
Well, we started having those conversations, and it really comes down to what specific staffing positions are needed and what are the credentials or expertise needed for those who fill those positions. And so that's not completely defined yet, but we've started that process of finding out from HUD exactly what those positions are and who needs them.
To that point, we also received a $100,000 grant from the Community Foundation of Southeast Michigan to perform and execute a full current state assessment. So we did complete that work with a consultant or a team of consultants and advisors. We did a current state assessment by interviewing all of the department heads and staff who might interact with this funding to make sure, as you said, they were responsible financial stewards of these public funds. We went through and built out standard operating procedures and workflows, and we tested workflows to make sure that there were no roadblocks or bottlenecks in work or productivity. We built out training modules, 9 of them, all the way from pre-award to post-award, meaning before we're awarded the grant till after. We built out cost assessments and cost projections for what it might cost the city to bring on staff full-time, compensation studies about what other communities are doing in a similar fashion, and what their operating budget is for a department that might mirror this type of activity. So we have done a significant amount of work to bring this back in-house and to prepare ourselves for managing a project and operation as important and as big and significant as this, and we take it very seriously.
Mrs. Brewer, Ms. Josephine.
Yes.
I have some numbers that you can reach out to me with area agency. They have a lot of resources for seniors. So it may be something that you can call that you need, and you can get it from the area agency. Okay. So I'll get with you after the meeting and give
Okay,
you a number.
Deborah, thank you. That's why I came to the meeting.
But in addition, and I encourage you to get those resources from Deborah, but in addition, if you could share your contact information with Alex afterwards, that way if you reach out to those resources and they're not able to provide support, perhaps it's something we can help connect you with.
This last snow, I paid $50 in less than 2 days.
Well, this brings us to the end of our formal program. I really appreciate all the feedback. I took extensive notes. Like we mentioned, we have it recorded so I can go back through and take notes again. I encourage you to fill out the slip of paper that's at the front table, or you might have it in your hands. There are extras over here with all the markers and pens. If you'd like to put your ideas up on the board, if you're more of a visual person like me, feel free to do that. And we'll all stick around for individual conversations and working on building out our wish list. So thank you again for coming. I so appreciate your feedback.
And I want to say just a couple of things. Number one, and most importantly, thank you again for coming out today. But secondly, please make sure you fill out cards with comments. If you haven't already spoken, fill out cards. Write down your ideas up there. No idea is too big or small to share with us. So, no matter how expensive your idea is or your wish list item is, or no matter how minor it might seem, please fill out cards, write it down, And then also, even if it's not about investing in the building itself, even if it's about a program or ongoing operating expense or whatever it is, share it with us. We want your ideas. We want your input. This community center is here to serve you, and we need your input to make sure that it serves you as completely and fully as possible. So thank you again for all your comments and input. Yes?
One quick question. What's our time frame for updating this building, updating the bathrooms? What's the time frame?
So
Yeah, Bill?
The project's currently under design, and we're planning on starting construction in July.
So some preliminary design work is happening, and of course we need to finish the parking lot. That's obvious. So that's a given. We need to finish the parking lot. It was done in a very rushed way in the fall. So we need to finish that, and I've had some conversations with Deborah about making sure that we're doing this in a way that maximizes accessibility, again, for those with limited mobility or disabilities. So we're on top of that, thanks to Deborah's input, and I know she's been in touch with some of you. So that's part of it, but we're also doing some preliminary conceptual work around improvements inside as well, and that's where all of your suggestions and input is so valuable.
Just finally, I know these are listening sessions. If people couldn't make Friday or today, do they have an opportunity to let you know after today? And what's the deadline for them to let you know what they want?
Yeah. So great point, and this is important too for those who may be watching at some future date. Yes, we want everybody's input, and there's not a hard deadline, but the sooner the better, because the sooner we get these, the sooner we can start incorporating them into the design work. And people should feel free to present that input however it's convenient for them, but one convenient way is via email. And they can send it directly to mayor, M-A-Y-O-R, mayor at pontiac.mi.us. So that's mayor at pontiac.mi.us. They can certainly copy Alex on it, and her email is A for Alex, A Borngesser, B-O-R-N-Gesser, at pontiac.mi.us. So A Borngesser at pontiac.mi.us. And then folks should also feel free to just call City Hall and ask to speak with Alex or ask to speak with Tamora in my office, and we're happy to take input that way as well.
On that point, the city website has a kind of listserv that you can join, an email list where we can communicate with you via email if that's something that you use. If you don't use email, obviously skip it. But if you would like to receive email communication from the city, I use it frequently. In addition to paper copies of flyers, I often send them out on that email list. If you haven't joined, I encourage you to do so, and you'll receive news about all the happenings around the city.
Great point. So just to underscore this again, if you go to the city website, you can sign up to be on our permanent email list. And what that means is anytime we declare a snow emergency, anytime we schedule a town hall, anytime any of these things happen, we send out information over this mass email list. And it's not like we send this stuff out every day or two, so you don't have to worry about being totally bombarded. But we do try to notify residents about important events through this email service. So please, if you're a user of email and you're interested in those kinds of updates, please sign up for that service. It's a great way to stay in the loop.
Not everybody owns a computer because I don't have one.
Understood. And that's why I mentioned feel free to call City Hall as well. The phone number for City Hall is 248-758-3000, I believe.
Yes.
Okay, all right, good. Pretty sure, but I didn't want to hand out a false phone number. So 248-758-3000. Feel free to call my office. Feel free to call Alex Borngesser there. We want to make that route available as well for those who don't use email or computers. All right. Oh, yes.
You don't have any business cards to hand out for people who won't have to.
I don't on me, but Alex does. So Alex has business cards, and she's happy to share them.
You have one?
No.
I'm sorry. I got here late.
Oh, yeah.
And we're all going to stick around too for a little while. So if you're shy or bashful and didn't want to say something publicly, feel free to come up and talk with us one-on-one as well.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.